Good stuff. Thanks very much, man. It's really a privilege to be here. Let me say, Russell, what a great presentation. Omri and I were sharing. We feel proud to be part of this discussion and this country. So thank you very much for that. And Patrick, your message of this morning, really encouraging. So thank you very much for that as well. I left home this morning and I said to my wife, I've got to go play the role of Larry King now. And she said, no, you're South African. Be a bit more creative and fun. Be like Trevor Noah. So I'm going to try and be Trevor Noah and be quite creative. And on that topic, the format of these panel discussions, we really wanted to be interactive. So please ask questions and tell us what you think. The panelists agreed that since we're on a wine farm, we're going to sponsor a bottle of this Boschendal wine for the person that asked the best question throughout the day. So please, all those 8 type personalities, this is your chance. Yes. And then we're also going to ask you some questions. And it's great to be face-to-face, but let's use some of the best practice of Zoom and Teams and so on. So if you like what we say, just throw us a thumbs up there from the back, and at least we know that you're listening. Good, so a quick introduction. I'm going to ask the panel members to do that as well, 15 seconds, just to warm them up, tell you who they are. I'll start quickly. Stefan Klaassen. I started Philip as a missionary, like you said earlier. Then became a lawyer. I was that for a switch. Today I work for a big bank, looking after 2 of the provinces here in South Africa. Some of our investments in Africa, and I invest in some private equity stuff, specifically the filming industry. And for fun, I like to mountain bike. Good. Sipho, can I go to you?
Thank you. Yes, I'm Sipho Mseleku, and I'm a lawyer by training, worked at Edward Nathan and Friedland, and also worked in investment banking. And I ran the Chambers of Commerce as the CEO here in South Africa, in the SADC region and in the continent, was the president of Pan-African Chamber of Commerce. I'm a businessman, and a founding chairman of the Sakunoto Group Holding, an investment holding company which invests here and across the globe. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Omri Thomas. I'm an asset manager working for Apex Investments. I'm married with 4 kids, and the reason why we don't have a 5th kid is they said every 5th kid in the world speaks Chinese, and I can't speak Chinese, so we stopped at 4.
Good morning, I'm Darin Owen, residing in KZN. I have a magnificent wife, Paula, as a partner in business as well, and 3 kids. I've had 1 job in my life at 21 and I got fired, and I've been an entrepreneur for 38 years, thank God, successfully, in my own little way.
Thanks, Darin. And on that point, the topic we've got to discuss is the investment landscape in South Africa. So I know you're not a macroeconomist, Darin, but I'm going to go to you first. And just give us your views of the economy in South Africa, the near to medium term. What do you see coming?
Yeah, I had a real clear view before Russell spoke. And I think I'm swinging massively to the other side. I think we're in challenging times. I think the obviousness of the riots and the corruption and the things that Russ has not seen with clarity, bless you, Russ, is a challenge, Steph, and I think that we all who are in business are faced with that on a day-to-day basis. We have options, we're able to spread wherever we go, we can spread our investment portfolio, but I do find that after my partners and myself made a decision to actually increase our spread abroad, that we haven't managed to be successful in that, and we found so much more magnificent opportunity locally. Not only on margin, but entry to certain industries, and the demand for business has ramped up, Russ, as you said, drastically, we find in our industry. So I think the inflation problem is still there, the currency problem is still there, our concern about what we've seen in the last 6 months is still there, but what a magnificent country we have.
Great. That needs a thumbs up, man. Come on.
Come on.
Good stuff. So, Darin, do you also see foreigners investing in South Africa, the foreign investment trend, specifically KZN? Do you see some of that happening?
I've seen that tap off, Steph. I've seen a lot of that tap off. I know there's a lot more people here, Craig. You guys are more qualified in that area. But I've seen a real resistance and concern in that. People who I've looked to partner with us locally have taken a stop and hold look. Not exiting, but they want to see a little more traction with the result of the Zondo Commission and certain things that I know none of us really want to speak about. But these are real things that we're seeing happening. And I think that our confidence and our clarity of how we can combat certain of those avenues that we've run down as a country, our representation back to the investment groups is massively important. And I think what was brought up by Patrick earlier, Steph, is amazing, about our spirits jumping. And I think that we've seen that amongst the community, amongst the body of Christ, that relationships and business is massively being led by the connection of the Spirit within us, where we are seeing deals being done on partnerships prior to the actual asset. So that's exciting.
One of the interesting things we often see with foreign investors is that we say to them, come and invest in South Africa, and they say to us, but you're not investing in South Africa. So glad to hear that you guys are investing a lot, Darin. Thanks for that. I want to get you guys a bit involved here. One of the nuances of South Africa is our very actively traded currency. So one of the favorite topics or hobbies of South African investors is to speculate with the rand or speculate what the rand's going to do. So we're going to do a bit of a survey quickly. And the rand's at 14.44 this morning, I think, when I checked. So let's see what your views are on the rand. So we want to sort of see a show of hands that where the rand's going to be end of this calendar year. Who says it's going to be weaker, so 15 and above against the dollar? Who says it's going to be stronger, 14 and below against the dollar? So end of this calendar year, can I see who thinks it's going to be weaker? Okay, there's a couple, and the rest, so who says it's going to be stronger? Let's just see your commitment. Okay, and the panel members, can I ask this side, who says it's going to be weaker? Okay, so it's going to be weaker. Okay, so you guys think it's going to be stronger. Omri, why stronger?
So I think what we're seeing is we're seeing a commodity boom, and there's massive dollars flowing into our country, supporting our balance sheet and our income statement, and supporting the currency. And at the same time, you've got our interest rates at very attractive levels. So it's attracting investment. I mean, if you look at the real returns you can get in South Africa, very attractive. So I think both those two factors supporting it. And I think the political environment has changed for the positive. And we're seeing it's been slow steps, but we're moving in the right direction. So it's becoming an investment destination where you can actually apply capital into again.
Perfect. Thanks, Omri. Sipho, can I go to you? So Darin spoke about foreign investment and so on. What investment classes or asset classes or opportunities or sectors are you seeing that should be exciting for an investor to go into now?
Well, there are a number of sectors that are very interesting currently in South Africa. We're an investment holding group, and we're investing in those classes. We're investing in oil and gas and in renewable energy. We have got a big equity in Total South Africa, and we're also getting strongly in it's a trend all over the world. Renewable energy, green hydrogen is the future. And the TMT, Telecoms, Media and Communication, or ICT, it's growing because where the world is moving in is in the era of technology, people meeting virtually, etc. The food and security, agriculture, food security and agriculture is going to boom, and not only in South Africa but in the continent. And we've seen other sectors, financial services, financial inclusion, fintech, also presenting a scope for growth. And that's our perspective in terms of that. But that growth is also going to be driven by the fact that you can create an opportunity here and expand it across the continent, using South Africa as a base because of its strong stability, political stability and infrastructure that backs it up.
Perfect. I think that's a point Patrick alluded to, you know, South Africa being a springboard into the rest of Africa.
Yes.
And foreign investors using us as the base, but going for the rest of Africa as well. Where in the rest of Africa would you go if you got some ideas for us?
Well, the key markets in the continent that are geared for growth, and of course in SADC, South Africa, most of the countries around SADC are sort of safe to invest in, and except one or two, and which I think everybody knows because of the instabilities in those. And then in the West Africa, Nigeria, Ghana are the strong, stable markets. And of course, there are strong francophone countries also in West Africa, like Cote d'Ivoire and Senegal. So they present nice opportunities. And in East Africa, of course, Kenya is the strongest, and Tanzania strongest markets. And North Africa, Morocco, Egypt present nice opportunities.
Great, thanks. I heard some Swahili earlier when somebody was praying. Who's from Kenya? Tanzania. There you go, there's at least one. Omri, can I go to you? So we've got some people from the USA here, and can you give us a bit of a difference between the investment landscape between South Africa and, say, a developed market like the US?
Well, if you look at South Africa, I think we're on par in terms of our markets. We've got a very sophisticated capital market. We've got a very liquid currency. We've got a well-functioning and well-capitalized banking system. Maybe FNB is the only one we're a bit worried about, but for the rest, we're actually happy. And we've got independent regulators, so our financial system is a well-functioning investment system. And if you look at returns over 100 years, there's a book, The Eternal Optimist or something like that, where they look at the returns for over 100 years, and South Africa ranks very highly. So the downfall is that because of political instability, corruption, and regulatory hurdles, our economic growth hasn't been where it should be. It should have been much higher. I think some of those hurdles are getting removed. So I think going forward, it's looking better.
Great. Now, we all like Russell's view of the world, but maybe if you can highlight one or two of those risks or challenges, what should a foreign investor be aware of when they invest here?
I think the wealth inequality in South Africa is one of the big risks. Part of the reason we saw the looting. We need to sort that out. And because of corruption, a lot of the resources that should have been going into the real economy and into the poorest areas of our country haven't been happening. And that's why there's a resistance. So for me, that remains one of the biggest risks. But as I said, I think we're making progress there, but it'll take time. I mean, it's been broken down over a period of 10 to 15 years, so it'll take a lot of time to rebuild it. But we are slowly moving there.
Great, thanks Omri, and thanks for that honesty as well. Sipho, can I go back to you? So, a bit of do's and don'ts, local partners. Is it important to have local partners when investing in Africa?
Definitely. You see, for a business to be responsible and to succeed in the country where it invests, it must first obey the laws of that country, because we are a constitutional democracy. And there are laws that govern how you do business in a particular country. So you operate outside those laws, that's a first risk for your business, because you're not compliant. So BEE, it's a key legislation for government to empower, to rectify the imbalance in the economy of this country. But those companies that have embraced BEE have made massive profits. They've benefited out of it, and they are respected and by government and by their counterparts, by their peers. So BEE it's very important. It's not only in South Africa. There's indigenization in other countries, which encourages people investing in those countries to partner with local partners in order to ensure that the economy of that nation is spent and shared with the people in that country. So that's very, very imperative, because you can't have foreigners coming, taking out all the wealth and resources and leave people poor and keeping the past imbalances that have been happening here. So I think that is very key, purely for business. And we've invested in very big companies, foreign companies, and that have embraced BEE and are benefiting out of it. I can mention a few. We've invested in Sulzer, which is a Swiss-listed entity. Sulzer Pumps, we are their South African BEE. We invested in Total, which is a French company. So, and they've embraced, and they fight to defend it, to stay at level 1, because they're getting lots of benefits, and they're growing every year.
Perfect, thanks for this. I can confirm that when we invest in other African countries, we've got the same nuances of local indigenization. Even in India, I lived in India for a couple of years, the same rules there. And one of the benefits is that it unlocks a lot of local capital
yes.
that then finds a way into the economy. So yeah, indeed.
And a lot of business, because remember there's scorecards, and which really you procure from compliant companies. And so it's a spillover effect. So, and when you procure from those, you get your own scorecards improved. And everybody wants to do business with you because you're improving their scorecards. It's law, and it's inevitable.
Indeed. Omri, back to you. You guys invest a lot of money in the economy. What is your sort of investment decision-making process? What do you consider when you invest?
I mean, we like to look for quality and cash flows. So over time, if you've got quality cash flows, good balance sheet, you can withstand the shocks in the market. But maybe just to come back, why one wants to invest in South Africa, you referred to it earlier, and I sort of half answered the question. If you look at South Africa and I look at the investment landscape, your options, you look at our fixed interest market, you can buy a 2044 bond, so it's a 13-year bond in South Africa at an interest rate of close to 11%. Our inflation is running at 5%. So you're getting a 6% real return for 13 years. You contrast that to the US, the inflation is also actually above our inflation at the moment, it's at 5.4%, and the US 10-year bond is at 1.6%. So you're getting a negative 3.6% return in the US versus a positive 6% real return. So you're getting a 9% yield gap for 13 years. So, I mean, that gives you a huge buffer for the currency to weaken or for shocks, and you'll still earn an excess return. And if you look at the equity market, our forward price earnings ratio is at below 10, S&P at over 18, and the NASDAQ at 40 times. So you're getting real value, good yields, and we're starting to see our economic growth increasing. So I think it's not a bad time to allocate capital to South Africa.
Definitely, you know where to give your capital to now if you need somebody to invest it for you. Darin, can I go to you quickly? Almost bring it for us into very specifics in the local market. What is your next big dream? Where are you guys investing, and where do you see growth?
I'm in our involvement really industry is clothing, homeware, property, and fiber optic company in the States. And so what we've seen, even through the riots, Steph, we've seen such a massive bounce back from the retailers in requiring stock and supply. And then with China taking a sidewind decision on, which I'm not saying it's wrong, but it would appear that they've moved from let's get people jobs to let's get them prosperous, which has adjusted the price lines, and has adjusted the supply base, squeezed it, start to bring some throttle in. There's a real mad run on supply within those industries, homeware, clothing, any form of manufacturing. That's why I was really excited to hear Russell talk about the opportunities that are coming up. So we're finding that this is an area that we are looking at investing a lot more, expanding, taking over companies that are finding themselves in cash flow difficulties, and really encouraging partnerships. We really try our hardest, which is what we're all here for, to ensure that we don't move unless the partnership is God-breathed, has a kingdom vision, and in the end, we're all here for a target or a means to an end, is to ensure that we can live a generous life. Because we want to see prosperity and increase in our businesses, but we want to see the fruit of that we can see the kingdom advance and God's hand in each of our businesses. So in these industries, in these areas, there's massive growth and massive opportunity, because for a decade or two, it's all been sucked over to abroad to the east, and now we've seen a massive an aggression actually towards getting local going stronger. So yeah, that's where we spend a lot of our time and money.
It's interesting, if you read the media, you get negative. You listen to investors, you get a lot more positive. I wish the media was here today. Sipho, Darin touched on a topic which I think is very important, kingdom-minded, and how one goes about doing that, and what that means. So tell us how you see that, firstly, and secondly, you guys have started two organizations that's gone worldwide and is now bigger in the rest of the world than in South Africa. Just tell us more about that.
Yes, I think the principle of kingdom-minded is it's based on acknowledging that everything you have and everything you acquire comes from God, and that we are stewards, that we are holders of resources. We are possessors, we're not owners. No one owns anything in the world. That's why when we die, we leave everything here. You're simply a custodian. So, and we have to operate with that mindset, that you are just possessing and not owning. And that when your time is over, you have to leave that to other people. And you have to use that in accordance with God's plan for his purpose. So kingdom-minded companies are those that invest in the development of others, invest in impact projects, and know that it's not just making money for your shareholders only. It's making money and you actively make money in order to impact others, to support the communities around you, to support everybody who's a stakeholder, even employees in that business. That's very, very, very important. That creates stability, that ensures that you're not surrounded by poverty around you, unemployed people around you, because you're just greedy, wanting to take everything. God says we have to love God with all our heart, but we also have to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. So if we love ourselves, we don't want to be poor, we don't want to suffer. So we shouldn't accept that a neighbor should suffer because we're greedy, we want to take everything. So the kingdom principles are completely different from the secular principles in terms of why we prosper, why God. He says to Abraham, I will bless you so that you may be a blessing to others. But also it's based on the principle that God gives you a seed. And it says in the book of Genesis 8 verse 22, as long as the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest shall never cease. So he gives you the seed to start your business, and the harvest that you get from the seed has seed in itself, so that it's perpetual. And so you have to be fruitful and multiply and impact the world for the kingdom. You have to advance kingdom globally, advance kingdom in your nation. And business people have the most privilege of being able to do that because they've got the resources that can directly impact people, whether people are looking for jobs, whether people are looking for training, whether people are looking for incubation, business facilitation, they can do that. Now imagine kingdom-minded businesses working together, the kind of impact they can make in the world. And they could make much more impact than the church, which can preach and win people salvation, but they can actually come up with concrete, practical programs that can change people's life. And most of the programs that government should be doing all over the world, they are failing. And because they don't think like business people who, business people, they don't give up until they succeed. And they focus on profitability. So, and they must succeed. So if many business people ran governments, in local government, regional government, you'll see a massive change because they'll be driven by success, by returns. So we ought to impact the world for God meaningfully. So the two organizations that we're speaking about, Global Business Roundtable and the Global Fund for Jesus, are the organization that we steward, that God gave us to manage. So our company, Sakunoto Group, 12 years ago, adopted this organization and sponsored them and supported them, funding their office infrastructure, their staff, their programs, their global expansion. They're now in 82 countries. And they've impacted millions of people around the world, and they are geared to grow to, in the next 3 to 5 years, to around 200 countries. And that's exciting to see that the money that God has put in your care, you are able to use to impact millions of people around the world.
We should give a thumbs up to God for that one, eh? Omri, I'm going to ask you a bit of a surprise question. I like the topic of coaching young entrepreneurs. I know you've got some thoughts around that as well. What message can you give to the audience? How can we do more to coach and encourage young entrepreneurs to grow and to invest in this country?
Yeah, I think we're all placed in the marketplace as stewards of God's capital, as Sipho said. But we're also stewards of resources in terms of our knowledge. And I think there's a duty on us to try and pass on that knowledge and equip youngsters. And in a country like South Africa, where lots of time you lose hope, the young generation need that hope, and we need to provide that hope. You only get that hope if you're optimistic about the future. And if you constantly get against closed doors, it's difficult to maintain hope. So I think if all of us have got a role to encourage hope in the youngsters and equip them through our guidance with our knowledge and our experience, and to open our contact network to the youngsters and help them and guide them and try and get them to be entrepreneurs and pass on to the next generation.
Great, thanks, Omri. And then something we asked the panel to prepare on is there anything prophetic that God is telling any of you about investing in Africa or in South Africa? I'll start with a quick one. My wife is part of a prophetic group, and she didn't know about this topic. She doesn't know much about the investments either. But she actually gave me a prophetic word this morning to be careful about what's happening in China and the property market there. And I think those of us who know actually knows about the property market there, but she didn't know it, so God is warning her about that. So it's not so relevant to South Africa necessarily, but in any prophetic word that God has given to any of you?
Yes, I can share because I believe strongly in the prophetic. The Bible says the Lord does nothing. Nothing happens on earth unless he has revealed it to his servant, the prophets. So there's always somebody who knows somewhere in the world what God is about to do. So the prophetic is very important. And if you read the whole Bible, the book of prophets, they prophesy about what God is thinking and what he's going to do. And it sends prophets to warn people to prepare themselves for that. So that's very, very important. Let me share two things about the prophetic. First is a quotation that I read, interestingly, on LinkedIn. Somebody posted something and said, "Those who leave everything in God's hands will eventually see God's hand in everything." Those who leave everything in God's hands will eventually see God's hands in everything. And this is very, very important. But the prophetic word I want to give is Isaiah. Is my favorite prophet, Isaiah 19. As you know, Isaiah was one of the messianic prophets, and most of his prophets came to pass. He prophesied about the birth of Christ, the life of Christ, the death, the suffering, the resurrection, and the end time. So, very spot on, very accurate. He prophesied in Isaiah 19 about the destiny of Africa. Isaiah 19 is about Africa. The first part, 50% of Isaiah 19, he prophesies about why Africa would go through such hardships. The oppression that we went through, colonialism, slavery, apartheid, it's all in Isaiah 19. But the second part, he prophesies about how Africa will get out of that. And that season has come. And for Africa to be completely liberated and to be free. And linked to that, one morning I went to buy Sunday newspapers, and I also buy business magazines. I bought the Fortune 500, and I read, and I looked into all the companies that were listed there, and none was from Africa. My spirit was grieved about that, and I actually prayed instantly. I said, "Lord, was it meant to be like this? Is it really, really true that you don't love Africa? You don't care about Africa?" And that bothered me in my spirit. The Lord said nothing until 2 weeks later, when he said, dropped in my spirit to say, "No, it was not really so. The time for Africa is coming. The time for Africa has arrived." And he said, in the future, not so far, you will see in the Fortune 500 a lot of companies from Africa. But they will be the redemptive company, the kingdom, the one that fear God, the one that serve God. So the people who are here need to position themselves for that, because it will happen. God is not meant to lie. So, and we've seen a lot of what the Lord has prophesied happen in our very own eyes. So we walk knowing that the things that God says will happen. So it's a time for Christian business people. Come together, collaborate, work together in building the kingdom, but using their capital, their resources, because Wealth is power. Resources is power. There's nothing you can do without money. So, and that's our leverage if we want to change the world. And I always said that if churches, work together in South Africa or anywhere in the world, they will control the politics, they will control the economy. Because the money received by churches every Sunday is just unbelievable. It's more than the money that the receiver collects. Thank you.
Thanks, Sipho. That's very encouraging, and I am certainly experiencing that to be true. I'm actually getting goosebumps as you're talking, so thank you for that.